Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to MindShifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeanie. Michael and Jeanie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rakhma. Michael is the author of So Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeanie Ryce.
To the brightness within you and the truth that is rooted within me.
Hello, everyone. This is Carol. Diane couldn't make it at the something was happening with her switchboard, so good thing we're playing together today. So, anyways, we have Dr. Tim Hayes that will be with us to host the show. Dr. Ryce is not available. If you'd like to call in today, please call in at 646-200-4169, and make sure you press 1 so that we'd like to talk to Dr. Tim. And also you can go to MindShifters Radio site, which is whyagain.com, and download any of the tools there, worksheets, book, everything that you need there to help you on your journey. We are also streaming live at ipmnation.com, so please check out their website as well, and you can listen to us there and at Earth Angels Radio and right here at Blog Talk. We're all over the place today. So welcome, Dr. Tim. Are you there with us?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. How are you?
Doing quite well, thank you, and thanks for all your efforts to coordinate the technology and make sure we have a space to have the show.
Well, you're very welcome. So what are we speaking about today?
Well, as usual on this show, we're offering help and support for people who are using the tools of forgiveness. And the forgiveness as it was taught in the ancient Aramaic, which is a tool for removing anything unlike love from my mind-body energy system. Mm-hmm. And we've been talking throughout the week about how it doesn't really matter what religion you come from or what philosophy or what scientific school or what cultural bias you have. If whatever you're dealing with accurately describes the way human beings work and the way the mind-body energy system and emotions and thoughts work, it will be compatible with everything else that describes accurately the same process, the same interaction. So we invite people not to believe what we're saying, but to step into a new level of observation and a new level of actually picking up the tools and trying them in their own lives. Because while we spend an hour each weekday talking about things on this radio show, this really isn't about talking. It's not about philosophy. It's not about convincing anyone of anything. It's really about picking up a tool and applying it to my life whenever I have any form of hostility or fear, sadness or shame, hurt or blame, guilt or aggravation, and removing what it is within my system, my thoughts and my beliefs, my energetic traumas, etc., that's actually causing that negative emotion. And the more I do that, the more I'm willing to look inside rather than to blame others for what I'm feeling or experiencing, the easier my life gets. And the more time I spend in joy and aliveness, and the less time I spend in any form of hostility or fear. You know, for years in doing therapy, I've talked to people about the bottom line observations that I keep coming back to whenever I've got a problem. And one of them is, whatever happens to me and around me in my life is nowhere near as important as how I choose to interpret and respond to those events. And if I can learn that, and if I can learn to look inside myself whenever I'm unhappy with the way things are going, I can open doors to a new level of peace and love and calm in my life that is, as far as I know, it's simply not available any other way.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about a set of tools that help people understand the role they're actually playing in creating their experience in each moment, and asking people to evaluate whether or not they like what they're feeling, and whenever they reach the conclusion that they don't like what they're feeling, they pick up these tools and apply them to what they're thinking and feeling, the energy stored in their system, and move to a place where they can be in direct conscious awareness of the source of energy that created them, of the love of the creator and of the creative energy, and the love they're made of, and the love that they're entitled to experience 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all around the year. Again, the tool for that can be found at the website at www.whyagain.com. And on the right-hand side of that home web page, there's a link that says download the worksheets. Click on that. It'll take you to a web page where the first 4 links will give you everything you need to get started with a worksheet, a description of how to use it, and 2 audio downloads of radio or internet shows like this, where Dr. Ryce personally worked people through the worksheet process, so you can see how it works, you can see the results people get, and if you're listening to those audio downloads, you can hear and feel the emotional and energetic shifts that take place, sometimes in very big, long-held issues. So, while it is a very powerful tool, we recommend that when people begin to work with it, they choose an issue that's rather small in intensity, that they don't pick the biggest issue of their life, like the 40-year problem of anger and alienation from their brother, but that they choose something that on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 having no upset, 10 being the most upset they've ever felt, is somewhere from the range of 2 to 3 to 4 in intensity, and try the worksheet process on that issue and watch what happens. Watch how, with diligence, with practice, you can learn to question everything the culture has taught you about how other people are making you angry, other people are hurting your feelings, other people are insulting you or offending you. Just watch. Don't believe us about it. Don't believe anybody else about it. Grab your life, your ability to choose the focus of your conscious awareness, apply it differently, and watch what happens. I'm just going to keep talking, Carol, and hopefully you'll let me know if anybody raises a hand and wants to either raise a question or make a comment.
We do have someone here that wants to ask a question, and it's area code 517. You're on the air.
Good afternoon. How are you today?
Great. Is this Rex?
This is Rex. How's it going, Dr. Kim? Is it Dr. Tim or Kim?
T is in Thomas.
Wonderful.
T-I-M. Timothy.
Hi, Tim. I've been enjoying your show. You're doing a great job. I appreciate you taking over so Michael can have a wonderful vacation and often doing his thing and working on his book and so forth. Yesterday in your program, you had shared some wonderful insights about how to discern truth. This is my synthesis of what I heard you say, but how to discern truth, and when you know what's true, and if it's true, it's consistently true through all different theologies, and it'll apply to all different religions. And then the idea that people wouldn't be excluded by doing the why work if they happen to be Baptist, Catholic, or what have you. And one of the things you said, I feel everything you said was accurate, yet one thing could have been interpreted a little differently, and I just wanted to clarify it. It was the part that you said, well, if something works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And you know it by its fruit of its, the results. And that is totally accurate. One gray area with the worksheet process I have found repeatedly is that people will start to address an issue, and they'll dig into a big issue, and they'll think they're working with, not liking how the grass is cut in the backyard, and only to find out that led to, 7 generations of trauma. You know what I mean? And when you do your first worksheet, you may not feel better. And you'll get to that point in the worksheet where you say, well, what do you think, and how do you feel now? And you'll see shifts if we're trained and guided and we've had a repetition on it. But those of us that are starting in the process quite often will say, well, gosh, it didn't really do much, and I feel a little bit more upset now than I did before. Well, this must not work. And I wanted to bring that out, and I know you can address it clearly. I just wanted to bring that out because it isn't about whether or not the process works. It's about, in my opinion, that it is actually triggering a deeper issue, and that is the process to be able to get to the place of really getting to origin, and origin of thought, origin of trauma, origin of pain, or whatever it is that we might be holding in our energy field. And so if you would address that, I would be greatly appreciative.
Well, that's an excellent point, and I'm glad you raised it. You're absolutely right that the common pattern with people beginning this work is that they'll take an issue, even if they're good at following directions, and they think they're working on something that's got a level 2 upset.
Right.
And by the time they're at the middle of the worksheet, they realize either that's not really the issue, or this is the tip of the iceberg, and the issue they're really talking about is something that goes back many generations in their family. As a matter of fact, the download with Lynn, where she works through a worksheet process, she starts working on one issue which had come up that day, and it taps her into an issue that's over 20 years old, and it's the same kind of a theme. So that's one thing that can happen is I might think I'm just talking about how the grass needs to be cut in the backyard, and I might tap into my resentment that no matter what I do, it's never good enough. And that
right.
I'm told that by my parents and my grandparents, and my great-grandparents were told that by their parents, etc. The second thing is we need to define what we mean when we say, is it working? And the worksheet process works, is effective, even if I'm not feeling all happy and joyful at the end of each worksheet.
Exactly.
There was a series of worksheets I did back around Mother's Day, and I brought them into the group to show them because it was at the end of the night, and I had gotten triggered to upset in an interaction with my significant other, and I sat down at the table and worked through probably 5 worksheets in a row. And the first one, I started with the emotion of anger and irritation, and by the end I was feeling sadness. I took that sadness and started the next worksheet, and by the end of that worksheet I was feeling hurt, started the hurt at the next worksheet, and by the end of that I was feeling confusion, and it just kept going from one not-so-pleasant emotion to another. Well, how would I know that this is working? Well, one way to look at it is, by the time I reach the bottom of the first worksheet, what I'm feeling is an unpleasant emotion, but it's not the same one I started with. So that could be one definition of it working. It's moving things. It's shifting my perspective. Another way that I can know that it's working is if, as I'm doing the worksheet process, I have a bunch of other thoughts come up. And this is what we refer to as margin notes. I want to make notes in the margin as I go down the worksheet that if, in your example, Rex, if I'm doing a worksheet on how the back lawn or the grass in the backyard was cut, and then halfway down the worksheet I have a flash of anger around whatever I do isn't good enough, I would make a margin note about that. If I keep working through the worksheet process, all I want things to do is be moving with the focus on my internal process and the understanding that whatever I'm feeling, I'm already carrying within me. I'm creating it. It's not coming from the outside. If I keep engaging the process with those fundamentals in place, it will eventually lead to calm, love, peace, acceptance, those positive emotions that most of us hope we'll have at the end of each worksheet. It may not come at the end of a worksheet, but at the end of the process, with movement toward understanding how I'm creating my experience in each moment, the more I practice that, the stronger that habit becomes in my thought, the easier it is for me to drop into that perspective and then actually be focusing on the things that I can control.
And it's very accurate, Dr. Tim, and I encourage my clients and the people I work with in my workshops and in my everyday life that, always remember that you're in a process of unfolding information and revealing more of yourself, and that anytime you feel anything other than calm or peace, then you've probably stimulated another issue, and then just do another worksheet. I mean, Craig, once you get adept at it, you can get through a worksheet relatively quickly, And the people that I have found that actually do that have tremendous breakthroughs where they'll do not just one worksheet, but then they'll feel a little bit off when they get down to the bottom and they say, well, I feel different, I feel a little better, and that's what we want to encourage, that you did see a shift, so it's working. And then, well, what do you feel now? Well, I think that blah, 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 blah. And then you go, well, now put that at the top of your worksheet and do another one. And what I found is that myself and others, when you do them back to back to back, we have a tendency to really break through some deeper patterns. And I think for those of us that have been doing it for all these years, I've been working with Dr. Michael for over 30 years, and you get a lot of repetition on it, so it's just normal. I think sometimes when we have so much repetition, we might take for granted what it was like when we did our first worksheet, and it's always good to remember that.
Yeah, and sometimes even look at how I felt and how I handled a situation that was similar to this 6 months ago or a year ago.
Yes.
I don't have to go back 30 years. I would hope that no matter how many years I'm doing the worksheet process or whatever other kind of healing work, that 6 months from now I'll be experiencing life a little bit lighter, a little bit more loving, a little bit more joyful than I did today.
Absolutely.
The other thing
thank you, Dr. Tim. I'm gonna check off, and then thank you for addressing that, and I'll continue to listen in on the program. God bless you, and God bless everyone.
Thanks, Rex, and that's an excellent question, and it sparks me to think about goals. Here's another way that I can tell if a worksheet process is working for me. If it can help me identify a goal I have for someone or something else, and my response to that goal is anything other than love and acceptance and compassion, then I really need to work at releasing that goal. No matter how logical it might seem and how good and loving it might seem on a surface level, if it results in me feeling anything less than love, it's ill-conceived. And the only way out is to cancel that goal and step back and look at what is the part of me that's creating stress and turmoil and judgment around how this goal is not being accomplished. So thank you, Rex. Appreciate it. And again, if you'd like to call in, the number is 646-200-4169, 646-200-4169, and just punch number 1 to let our switchboard people know that you have a question or a comment. And there's something in the chat room that asks, are the margin notes revealing more of the file from the file folder effect mentioned yesterday? And yes, that's one very good way to think about it. When I'm doing a worksheet, if I start and let's say I'm upset because my partner is angry at me, and I get halfway down the worksheet and the emotion that I had was frustration or irritation at my partner, and I begin to feel a sadness, I may not want to change the worksheet at that point. I'll just make a margin note on sadness. And what this is probably doing is resonating material in my file folder on conflict in relationship. We were talking about the file folder effect yesterday being how the mind and the body energy system stores information and how every energy system that we know about works according to the laws of resonance. So that when the law of resonance says that when two items, two substances that resonate to the same frequency are in the same vicinity, if one of them has more energy, it shares some of its energy with the one with less energy. And the easy way to think about it is with a tuning fork. If I have a G tuning fork and a middle C tuning fork and another middle C tuning fork, if I tap the middle C tuning fork and hold it up to the G tuning fork, nothing will happen. The G tuning fork won't resonate. It won't pick up the energy off of the middle C tuning fork. But if I tap one middle C tuning fork and hold it near without even touching the other middle C tuning fork, the other middle C tuning fork will start to vibrate and hum. So in a similar fashion, I have information in my mind-body energy system related to relationships, men, women, arguments, peaceful times together, loving interactions. I have information stored in my mind about all of those things. And if I came from a family where there was a lot of conflict, a lot of bitterness and anger and name-calling and swearing and perhaps even violence, this is all in the file folder in my mind connected to relationships. So if I'm in an interaction with someone and any kind of irritation or conflict comes up, it's going to resonate with my past experience. It's going to stir up and activate my file folder on conflict in relationships, and I'm going to tend to respond from that file folder rather than to be able to be present in the moment and clearly and without bias interact with the person in front of me.
Oh, there's a call coming in here.
All right. Who do we have? Where are you calling from, and what's a name we can use?
Hi, this is Marie from Florida. Good afternoon, Dr. Tim.
Good afternoon, Marie. Thanks for calling.
Wonderful. I listened to you talking about the law of resonance and in a wondrous fashion, and I always, I've been following you the whole week, and I think you explained it such in a beautiful way and an understandable way for even the layman. And you're talking about the law of resonance, which is mistaken and popularly described as the law of attraction. And that brings me to my next subject, is the principle of forgiveness that you explained so beautifully. But I do believe it's lost. And then why do I say that is this. I was listening to a webinar series from very famous lecturers and writers for the past few days, and they are giving fabulous tips, except when it comes to forgiveness, all of them, without exception, they all seem to be coming to a meaning that forgiveness is something that is about another person, and that, here are the steps that you can follow, and then eventually when you follow all these steps, you can come to an understanding that you can forgive the other person for causing the harm that you feel within you, which is, as you and Dr. Michael Ryce explained so beautifully, that basically it is the concept of pardoning, and which is a beautiful thing to do, but it's not forgiveness. And I do believe that the forgiveness process is actually something that is not only lost but misunderstood. Pardoning is something beautiful to do. However, if you or somebody else resonates something within me with the same law of resonance, because we have the same frequency, it's something that I have to address myself, regardless of what that person has done to me, and we can go on and explain in details how other people, I'm such a loving person, and other people do this and that in the world or to me. But clearly it's biased, because if I feel it, it's mine. And I cannot stop to have personally to remind myself the distinction between pardoning, which is a beautiful thing to do, and forgiveness, which has nothing to do with I let you off the hook for the terrible things that you did because I'm so great and I didn't deserve this, and so on and so forth. And you explain it in a very articulate fashion. However, I don't know about other listeners, but I've been following this program of forgiveness for 2 years, and it's still not, to me, something that is automatic, like, oh, that's something in me that I have to address. My first reaction is always, oh, I did good and they did bad, and I go into a whole realm of finding fault into somebody else, and as opposed to addressing, oh, this is something in me that I resonate with, and
all
this
right,
is
so
what I have to address.
Let me bring something up here. You sound like you're probably over 20 years old.
Yes.
Okay, so
way over 20.
Well, we don't need to go any farther than that, but I want to talk about how for the first 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 years of my life, I was conditioned by a culture that said other people make me angry, other people hurt my feelings, other people offend me, etc. Every day, all day, every book I ever picked up, every television show, every radio show, every movie. So I have, for me personally, it was 50 years of conditioning before I was introduced to this material which so clearly states. And I had the benefit of having similar material introduced to me without all the specific tools that Dr. Ryce has. But it was, a full 50 years of conditioning before I had these tools. Now, several people that I know have gone to holistic medical doctors and chiropractors, and they've talked about how you need to clean up this and clean up that and get this healing diet, and then the person says, well, how long do I have to do this? And it's routine for these holistic doctors to say, give me 1 month on this healing diet for every year you spent on the garbage diet. So when you say you've been doing the forgiveness process for 2 years, 2 factors there. How much time do you spend each and every day thinking about the forgiveness process, and how many years were you alive getting inundated with the conditioning of the culture that taught you exactly the opposite? and then use the formula just for a beginning point to say, I'm going to try this worksheet process or the Michael Ryce tools or the MindShifter for at least 1 month for every year that I lived my life being conditioned the other way. And
this is awesome, because that's the first time I hear this, and then it makes a lot of sense to me.
Well, I would offer for your consideration that that's a really good exchange rate, and that you can accelerate it by choosing to spend more conscious energy every day focused on this new process and undoing the old conditioning. And if you spend less time each day, then it will simply take longer to undo the old conditioning. The point is, not that we are trying to get converts, not that we want anybody to follow us, not that we're selling anything. The point is, does your life get better? Do you feel happier, more loving, more joyful, lighter, more peaceful, more compassionate? If that's happening, keep working at the tools. If it's lightening up a little bit, work a little harder. Focus a little more. If, as Rex was saying, when you first get started, you might feel as though you're more upset than you were before. You might do a worksheet and think you're just doing something about the backyard wasn't mowed the right way, and you might uncover half a dozen issues about how nothing you ever do is right and everybody always leaves all the work for you and nothing you do is appreciated. And so you might feel more upset at the end of one worksheet, but all this means is you've now uncovered upset that had been hidden in your mind-body energy system. And now that it's uncovered, you can deal with it, process it, do EFT tapping, do still point breathing, do a mind shifter, do a reality management worksheet, and literally get it out of your system. The more I get the garbage out of my system, the easier it is for me to choose the focus of my conscious awareness as my source as love. And that's the goal of this work, to be able to spend more of my awake time every day focused on my true source as love. I sign my blogs when I write them about the work, the MindShifters group. I sign them as, we come from love, we are made of love, we are love, everything else is false. And when I remove everything that's less than love from my system, I don't have to work on being loving. It's simply there. It is the ground and the source of my being. It's the air I breathe. It's the molecules I'm made of. It's the energy of creation. So I support you in trying to continue to use these tools to undo the conditioning that has tricked you into believing that you are not creating your experience, that other people are making you happy or sad or hurt or confused.
I appreciate that, and you gave me like a very good tip right now is for any month of conditioning. For every year of conditioning, I have to devote a full month of redressing this situation. I like that a lot.
And if you
and
do
I
that,
hope listeners will benefit from that.
And if you do that and you get to the end of, let's say it was 5 years that you had conditioning, and you get to the end of 5 months of actively using these tools, and you say, nope, I can't see that it's doing me any good, then I would support you in moving on and finding a different set of tools. But also, if you've been conditioned this way for 30 years, give it at least 30 months of actively applying these tools and observing the process. And at the end of 30 months, if you can't say your life is actually better, lighter, happier, then again, I would support you on looking for a different set of tools.
But I do appreciate it because it gives me a benchmark, and I'm way below the benchmark that you just said a month for every year. and I have observed like a tremendous improvement. Yet the little mind, the little vignette in my head says, "Well, see, it's not working fully," and so on and so forth. So I do appreciate that. For me, it gives me a benchmark that I will take onto something that I'm way below the benchmark that I need to be, and then it's working, and it's just to be a little bit more patient with the process.
Excellent. And congratulations for being at it only 2 years and seeing significant improvement already.
Oh, I do. Believe me. Thank you so much, Tim.
You're very welcome. Thanks for calling. We appreciate the call. Again, if you have a call, if you have a question or a comment, the number is 646-200-4169. 646.
We have another caller.
200-4169. Go ahead. Who we have? Where are you calling from, and what's the name we can use? What's the area code?
Well, if it's me, it's Richard at 607. Are you guys hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you, Richard. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing quite well, thanks. How can we help you?
Well, I'm enjoying. I just wanted to let you know I haven't been able to catch all your shows, so I did listen to them on the MP3 files last night, and I certainly enjoy your talking and teaching Michael Ryce's stuff, because it's another way of understanding what Michael's teaching. And again, I just wanted to comment on how effective his tools are. I had a very traumatic incident occur about a week ago, and within, I was devastated. A close friend of mine, our coworker, committed suicide, and I don't know. It's the closest person I've ever had, do that, and I was, in grief, extreme grief the next day, and been through the gamut of emotions from grief to, you name it, anger and fear myself, a lot of different emotions coming up regarding the situation. And by the third day, I actually saw the darkness lift and had the experience of light coming into me, as I started to come out of this episode of grief and the trauma involved in this incident. And it's now about a week and a half later, and yesterday, Wednesday, which is about a week and a day after this occurred, I could actually say that I was actually feeling almost normal again today, yesterday and today. But certainly it involved doing a lot of worksheets with each emotion that came up. And I don't know what the normal process on dealing with something like this is, but I feel it's a tremendous thing to say that within a week I've been able to get through this crap and come out.
It's absolutely phenomenal. And in answer to your question, what's normal is not necessarily healthy. It's just what happens most of the time. And what happens most of the time in our culture is that we deny and suppress and run away from the pain and sadness of a trauma like this. So I want to congratulate you for doing the opposite and picking up the worksheets and actually addressing the energies and thoughts and emotions that you were creating in response to this, so that you didn't have to suffer for an extended period. I would also offer that you want to remain vigilant and you want to be open to the possibility that it may come back in waves.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
And as those negative energies and thoughts come back in waves, you do more of what you did the first time. Pick up the worksheets, do the breathing, and stay focused on what you might be doing to create this for yourself. But that's an excellent testimonial, and I thank you for calling and sharing that.
Now, I had something occur yesterday, which I was laying down and just breathing, and basically was, just observing light in my mind. And this flash came through, and it was, I didn't really catch it. It was just like a dark flash came through my mind, and I didn't really see anything involved with it. It's just that it just seemed like a picture that just came through my mind so fast that I couldn't see it. But could you comment on that possibly?
That you had a dark flash come through your mind?
Right. I mean, it was like I'm basically seeing, my eyes closed. I'm just envisioning light in my mind, and was just resting and being, trying to just take like a 15-minute power nap, so to speak, but not actually going to sleep, but doing the breathing stuff, following my breath and just observing the light in my mind. And it was just like this flash of something went through my mind, but I wasn't, it's like, I don't know how to describe it, like a plane just went flying by, but you didn't really see what it was. Does that make sense?
Well, it can. I've had certain situations that I would describe similarly, but my question for you would be, how did you feel about it at the time, and how do you feel about it now? Is it upsetting to you that this happened?
No, not at all. It was like, I was wondering whether, we talk about pictures coming up in our mind of those unconscious things, and I guess what the real question is, was this something unconscious that came to my awareness, but it went by so fast that I couldn't really
grab hold of
it.
Right.
Right.
Well, it might be, and what I usually tell people in therapy is it's the same thing as if I have a dream and I wake up in the middle of the night and I think, wow, that's a powerful dream. I really want to remember it, but I don't write it down, and I wake up the next morning and I can't remember it at all.
Right.
Then I don't have to worry about that, because if it's a part of something my mind needs to work out, I'll have the dream again. If it's a part of something that I need to resolve or work through or be aware of, I'll have a daydream about it, or I'll have another night dream about it. And I would offer the same thing here, that if this was a flash of a dark emotion or fear or an upset or a resentment about anything in your life, but particularly about this most recent trauma, the suicide of a friend or a coworker, if it's there and needs to be worked out, it'll come back.
Okay.
And as long as you're not upset about it now and it doesn't leave you feeling disturbed, then just breathe and watch. If there's any kind of an upset about it, I would offer you can take out a reality management worksheet and dismantle the upset.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
You're entirely welcome. Thanks
Have a good day.
Call. All right.
Have a good day.
Thanks, Richard.
Yeah. Can I ask a question?
Certainly.
Yeah. So if a person's having emotions or things that they've been storing inside of themselves in that unconscious mind, and it's coming to the surface, and it comes without too much emotion, then are you saying that it's easier to recall it or to deal with it?
Well, I'm not quite sure what you're asking, so try
okay.
that.
Well, I go by how I feel intuitively at times, and I was feeling from him it was just something that was there and he could deal with, but it wasn't something that was too traumatic. But so when things start coming to the surface and a person starts acknowledging that there is something there, then if there's not too much negative emotions attached to it, is it easier to recall? I guess that's probably what I'm asking you.
Well, generally speaking,
or to deal with
that's been my experience, yes. That
okay.
if there's material about a mild upset I had in 8th grade, And it wasn't, any horrible embarrassment or any major failure, but it gets triggered by something that somebody writes me on Facebook, and I realize, oh, they were in my 8th grade class, and all of a sudden I remember this unpleasant exchange that happened in the bus line at 8th grade. It's far easier for me to remember it because it's not an intense, upset, embarrassment, degrading, painful situation. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, if it was something like I was a bedwetter in 8th grade, and I had to go to school one day and I didn't get a chance to, clean up, and I kind of still smelled like urine, and I had to stand close to somebody in the bus line, and I could smell it, and I thought they could smell it. That's a horrible, intense, upsetting,
mm-hmm.
degrading kind of. I might have to be doing some really in-depth, long-term work with somebody before I would let that memory come up.
Mm-hmm. So, the lady that called in was saying that she's been working at unfolding things and issues that she's had over the last 2 years. The intensity of these memories or these things that we hold sometimes, I guess with the intensity of the emotion, do you find that they're harder to let go of for people? Or is it different with everybody?
Well, it's always different for everyone, and I would offer that the thing that comes up when you're asking the question is whether or not someone will let themselves actually look at the incident. So let's say I had this trauma when I was in 8th grade as a bedwetter, and I haven't let myself remember that or think about it or look at it, and I'm 57 years old now. I may have to have something very, very big come up to trigger that. At the same time, I have some supportive environment, like a MindShifters group or a therapist that I trust, and be actively working with tools that I've already demonstrated to myself they can make a difference in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I might be talking about and dealing with things all through my 8th grade experience, because maybe it's a 50th reunion or something, and never once remember that I was a bedwetter or that I had these embarrassing moments.
Mm-hmm.
My unconscious mind can work to keep it hidden from me, even if my conscious is actively probing around there trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
If the emotional intensity is too intense, and I have somehow, with one part of my mind, decided this material is too intense or too scary or too painful or too overwhelming, that part of my mind will simply not let me see that intensity, that memory, that
mm-hmm.
trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. I'm kind of trying to correlate all this so people will kind of see exactly what you're saying. So I get that sometimes these traumatic events or these different things that have happened, and we've compartmentalized them, that they come out in layers almost. Do you find that certain things, people, if they let go of certain things, then the deeper ones can come up and they can maybe deal with it because they've let emotions go for other things?
Yes, absolutely. One of the ways Dr. Ryce talks about that is to imagine a vitality meter. And so a vitality meter runs from 1 up to 10. And at 1, I'm just barely alive. And at 10, I have my full emotional health, vitality, and strength off the charts. Now,
mm-hmm.
when I'm sitting at a 3 or a 4 or a 5 level vitality, which is where you might argue most people live their lives, I can have in my system traumas at the 8 and 9 and 10 level. But when I'm sitting at a vitality of 3 or 4, my mind won't let me see anything but the upsets, toxins, or traumas that are anything but a 1 or a 2.
Mm-hmm.
because my system knows if I've only got a level 3 vitality and I try to handle a problem that's a level 5 or a level 8 intensity, it'll completely overwhelm me. It might kill me. It would drain me so it might drive me crazy, etc. So when I'm sitting at a 3 or a 4 level of vitality, I'll only be able to see and work on the traumas or the levels of a specific trauma that strike me as a 1 or a 2 level pain or disruption or trauma or toxin. As I work on those, if I'm actively working and I remove from my system a number of level 1 and level 2 and level 3 traumas, my vitality will increase to a 4 or a 5.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, even on the same issue, let's take this issue of my being a bedwetter in 8th grade, now all of a sudden I'll start to have more memories of upsetting things that happened because of my being a bedwetter in 8th grade. But there'll still be a less intensity than my current level of vitality. So yes, things do tend to get processed in layers.
The man that called in just a few minutes ago, I was thinking that he must have done a lot of work to be able to go to those worksheets and deal with his emotions that he had over his friend's suicide. And because he did that and he had the energy and the vitality to do that, then something else was coming out. I kind of felt that it actually had strengthened him to do that.
Well, that's entirely in keeping with the way we discuss this and what we've seen time and again. And yes, Richard has done a lot of work. He's actually been to Heartland and done an intensive with Michael, and he does worksheets on a regular basis, and he is seeing the benefits. He's actually the gentleman who's in the 4th download on the worksheet page. So, yes, he has a lot of experience, and he continues to work and build his skills using these tools. So that's another level. He has confidence in the tool and its ability to make a difference in his life when he picks it up and applies it.
I, as you, have I have a background as a psychiatric nurse for 20 years, and so I've seen how things function in that way, and it's amazing to see, excuse me, to see things unfold the way MindShifters works. I find it very fascinating and amazing. So I just thought I'd.
It's absolutely amazing that if you're trained with a certain set of tools, for instance, if all you've ever learned to use is a hammer, everything starts to look like a nail.
That's a good analogy.
If all you've ever been trained in is surgery, everything is either it needs surgery or it doesn't. If all you're ever trained in is medication, this situation either needs medication or it doesn't. Well, when you expand the tools and you acknowledge that, there might be a role for surgery and there might be a role for medication, but there are a lot of other things that influence the mind-body energy system, and a vast majority of them are internal to the person, and that these things can be built as skills, then it opens all kinds of doors. I've worked with many people over the years who had been given a diagnosis of bipolar, manic depressive, psychotic, but if these people are intelligent and determined and want to get off medications and want to do their work, I've worked with many people who have defied the odds, and
I've seen it too.
Instead of having them get worse and worse over the years and more hospitalizations, they stabilize on medications. They find it easier to take the meds that keep them stable. They're able to decrease some of the medications, and they don't go to hospitalization after hospitalization. and they don't get more and more psychotic as the years go by.
Yeah. I see people in an energetic sort of way. So when I'm listening to what people are saying on this show, I'm also seeing what they look like energetically. And, yeah, it's pretty fascinating to see. I can almost see the layers energetically. We all have our different ways of seeing things and our own talents and things.
And one of the things that's coming out more and more as science catches up with reality is that they're able to find and map things like neuroplasticity, which means the brain's ability to change and grow and adapt. And one of the people who's been labeled the world's happiest man, he's a monk, he's a French monk, and he was just doing an interview last Sunday, and he said, the point of this work is that we're able to demonstrate through brain scans that the more you practice meditation, the more you change your brain structure, and the easier it is for you to drop into a place of love and acceptance and compassion. Now, another way to talk about that is the more garbage and gunk and anger and fear and resentment I remove from my system, the easier it is for my love and my compassion to express without being hidden beneath the bushel basket. So we offer that these tools actually strengthen your brain's ability to heal, to focus on love and compassion, and to help you bring yourself to that place of peace and love and creativity. Yeah. And if you do that, you end up creating the best year yet of your eternal life. And that's what we're here to support people do 5 days a week.
Yeah,
so
and
we're out
we
of
just
time.
have a few seconds left. Yeah, thank you very much, Tim.
Welcome.
And it's been a very great week, and you've given a lot of wonderful knowledge to people.
Well, it's
my
my
pleasure,
pleasure,
they'll appreciate
and I want to encourage people to tune in next week. Dr. Ryce will be back Monday through Friday. It's 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock Central Time, and you can adjust that to your time zone. And please, come back, use the tools, call and let us know how it's working for you, and thank you so much for your help with the technology. We couldn't do it without you.
Thank you for listening to MindShifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeanie, who present that internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. Michael and Jeanie are here every Monday through Friday on Earth Angels Radio. For more on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. That's www.whyagain.com.